from the child. But to everyone's best ability, if you give what you have to your child, if you are as available as humanly possible to your child in your circumstances, you are a great parent. There is a law in the United States Constitution that gives us the right to parent our children, the right to due process. It might be the Amendment 14, but don't quote me on that. I have done research around it, and I'll talk about that in another live. Now, I never received any sort of problems or any sort of slander or libel in my life while I was working in medical. Never did I ever get accused of anything. Never did I ever become subject to some sort of investigation. When I began selling sexy content on platforms such as ManyVids, Cam Soda, there are a lot of them, Live Jasmine, there are many websites. When I began engaging in that sort of employment, it was not my significant others or former significant others. It was not my friend and family members. It was strangers who began calling DCFS. My name was leaked because I was using a performer alias name. I began being accused of, some sort of identity sorts of scam type of issues, and my alias name, much like many girls who work in private dancing and things of that nature, use a stripper name, if you will, or some sort of alias, that name was connected directly to my legal name. So for protection and to keep my family separate, I worked in that capacity with an alias. When my real name was leaked, my name is Heather Gillespie, it's already been out there, so my alias name was Coco Chanel YSL. When my alias name and my legal name were attached to each other, I began being bombarded by allegations, in-person harassment, online harassment and hatred, slander, abuse, and it affected every single relationship I had in various ways. If you can imagine a scorned wife. Now, a lot of my demographic and the people who are watching my content, they're usually around my age, pretty open-minded, like attracts like, you know what I mean? So the people who really are here, are friends with me, or who believe in the same things I believe in, they would never call DCFS on someone because, they do sexy content, okay? So it's not someone who is my normal demographic. It's someone who most likely, and my guess is that it's someone who saw a charge on their husband's credit card bill or wife's credit card bill, saw that it was a purchase, maybe saw some direct payments through Zelle, through Cash App, through Venmo, or something like that, and they are a spiteful person and they began to contact DCFS. DCFS, the Department of Child and Family Services, does not have the, let's call it evolution necessary to handle people who have a public following. It should be illegal. They're in direct violation of every single one of my rights, as they've been, for quite some time. Now let's talk about it. My children, before I gave birth to Weston, I have a 4-month-old. I have 3 other children, Viviana, Lewis, and Alexis. My children have lived with me in my home from their birth and gone to their father's houses on the weekends, usually 3 days a week with them and 4.5 days, 3.5 days with them, 4.5 days with me, okay? Sometimes alternating. Sometimes if I was, really busy at work, they'd spend 5 days at their dad's and only come home, on the weekend for me. But for the most part, I was the primary custodial parent for their entire lives. My children are now 17, 16, and 10. Weston is 4 months, but he's separate from this. As people began to be scornful and hateful and, all of these hater words that I could continue to list, DCFS would pop up and knock on my door unannounced. DCFS went to my youngest daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, went to her classroom, removed her from the classroom and brought her to the community hospital ER, where a man doctor who I did not give permission to, looked at her body to make sure she was not being assaulted. Now, what on earth about that situation seems legal? What on earth about that situation seems ethical? The answer is none of it. On top of that, I had been threatened and coerced and extorted, and we can go over those words if you don't know what they mean. Basically, I was told, you're gonna do X, Y, Z, and if you don't, I'll be back to take your children from you by law enforcement agents. I'm not against the police. If you think that I am, you have the wrong idea. I'm never gonna be against the police. I'm never gonna be against any one organization. There are bad people, there are good people, there are people who fall in between, there are people who were bad and turned good, there are people who were good and turned bad. People are static, forever changing. So what I'm saying is, my biggest vulnerability is the love, and most people is the love that they have for their families and their children. Social media, which I am a huge fan of and has been an advocate for me and a large tool in business for me in many, many ways. Social media allows people to be found. It allows people to live their lives in a public way that before this only reality TV and sponsorships allowed. On top of that, you have background checking software available. Say there is no social media. I can download an app like Been Verified. That's just one example of many, hundreds. And I can download that app and I can pay a subscription, a monthly subscription, and I can have as many background checks as I want with very little upfront information. So it's very easy in the age that we live in to get information about people, find out where they live, find out their phone number, and find out, more, issues as such. Now, 7 times I was investigated by the Department of Child and Family Services for child abuse. 7 times the case was closed unfounded, meaning I was innocent, meaning I was not guilty. 7 times, just in the past 6 years. I have not sold sexy content or worked in that capacity since 2019. We are in 2024 today. Okay? Besides that one issue with my child being taken out of school and taken to the ER where she was examined without my permission, there are numerous other instances where my children were bombarded with questions from strangers, where my children were led, baited, where my children were incentivized, scared, or extorted to give responses that they would not have if they were not under duress. And even with those responses, I was still found to be innocent. All of the allegations made against me were reported to the state central registrar for the state of Illinois as harassment. That is 7 investigations, all closed. I'm innocent, marked as not guilty, harassment. What's going on today with my 4-month-old is not only unconstitutional, it is absolutely illegal, unethical, immoral, and disgusting. Okay? I want to talk about the Department of Child and Family Services is in a situation where they, by whatever ruling is, or whatever governing body is, supposed to be holding them accountable, they are supposedly valid in separating a child from a parent before a full investigation has been completed. They are supposedly valid in accepting hearsay, lies, rumors, or pieces of truth out of context from the internet, from social media, and from people who refuse to identify themselves, and using it to separate families. We are not living in 2015, people. We are not living in 2005. We are living in 2024 when the internet is available to everyone. That means everyone can have a very public persona. And it doesn't have to be who they truly are. Anyone can be anything on any one of these platforms. That's not a good enough reason to march into someone's life and separate them from their child.